Episode 9, Wavelengths Live now. Surprise appearance, Julian Alcaraz. Wi-Fi is going to give out any minute, so I'm going to let him talk. We got Armaan Sodhi, Iestyn Harris, Deonta Saleem. First thing, did not think Julian was going to be here, so this is going to be hard for him to take. Lakers aren't beating the Warriors. I said it the other day. I still feel it. I want to say I'd be shocked if they make it into like the playoffs, but I mean, I'm taking the Warriors. Julian, go ahead.
Well, I'm not the biggest fan of the Lakers right now. That's my team, but it's been a season of disappointment after disappointment. It looks really bad when you can't win without your two star players. And I mean, those two star players are irreplaceable. Obviously, you have like one of the best of all time in LeBron James, and Anthony Davis is probably the best power forward in the game right now. And, to not be able to at least get a higher seed than 7 kind of sucks when you don't have them. And, you lost Rondo in the offseason, who was elite in the finals. He was a great leader. You lost Danny Green, who was a miss machine. He was a bricklayer, and but he had those games. He had that buzzer beater against the Mavs early in the season. But then you add guys like Schroeder, and you add guys like Montrezl Harrell, who 6-man and runner up with the 6-man of the year, and you can't get a higher seed than 7 without your 2-star players. It's kind of sad. It's just Curry's by himself basically doing everything, and look where he's at. He's like everyone wants him to be MVP. He's on the cusp of another playoffs without Klay Thompson this time, without any help basically. And I don't blame you for thinking that the Lakers are going to lose, but they're not going to lose. So all the stuff I just said about them, all the trash I just talked, I mean, I don't see the Lakers losing. And if LeBron's playing, if Anthony Davis is playing, those Lakers are not going to lose anything. I even said if the Lakers are healthy, they're not losing in the West. They're going to be in the finals. I think they're just the better team. They have the best defense efficiency in the entire league. They have, I think it's the 4th best defense against 3-point shooting, which is, what Steph Curry has been dominating in. The Warriors ranked 9th in 3-point percentage, but I just don't think the Lakers are going to have as much. I mean, I think it's going to be a tight game. I think it's going to be a close game all the way through. I never want to count Curry out. I love Curry. I don't think he's my MVP, but that's a different discussion. I do think these Warriors are going to give a fight, but I don't think the Lakers are going to lose. And I understand why a lot of people say that. I understand why the Lakers should be worried. What LeBron said in the interview yesterday was kind of worrying too. He kind of didn't sound as confident in his team as he should. But if LeBron's playing on his game, not at his best, because obviously he's not as healthy as we think. Anthony Davis is not as healthy as we think. The whole team is not really as healthy as we think. But I don't think they're going to lose, and they shouldn't lose. And if they do, I just might not watch the playoffs.
I think you made a pretty good point there about the whole losing Rondo, because he has that Chris Paul effect, like we're seeing with the Suns right now. I mean, he doesn't need to be the number 1 star guy out the court at all times, but he really does facilitate great team basketball. I mean, it looks when he plays, it looks like a return to fundamentals. Everyone does the right play. I mean, it's a cliche and you hear it all the time, but it's true. I think that I'd take the Lakers right now. Even if the Warriors play a great game, the Lakers do to the most medium of their potential. It's still probably the Lakers. It's probably still a trip for the Lake Show, because I think the Warriors are kind of playing their best basketball right now, and they are electric and fun to watch. But their best basketball has them at the 8th seed, having been playing some of their best basketball for most of this season. The Lakers have been playing just about the worst basketball we could possibly expect, with the least active men on the roster, and yet they're coming at this game a little bit healthier than they've been for the better part of this end of season stretch. Admittedly, they're not even close to all the way there, as you said, but I mean, this is still, even at their worst, the Lakers have just too much talent on this roster, and they have the right mismatches against a team like the Warriors to take this one in. It's a 1-game series, and I fully expect the Lakers to seal this up. But you really can't count out Steph, and if Steph Curry manages to pull this out, not 1 ounce of me would be surprised. But that's just it. It's not the Warriors. It's Steph Curry and company.
So Deontay,
So
you agree
my
with me, right?
no, I don't, unfortunately, because if you just simply look at it, Steph Curry. I mean, yes, Steph Curry is Steph Curry. We all know what Steph Curry can do. I personally think Steph Curry is going to go off for 50 in this game because that's the only way they can put up a fighting chance, in my opinion. They just really lack any sort of talent behind Steph, and I know the Lakers have absolutely somewhat minimal, minimal talent on their end, but at the same time, you do have a guy like LeBron James, who's arguably the greatest of all time. Anthony Davis, just like Julian said, who's probably the best power forward in basketball. And I don't think there's anybody on the Warriors who can keep up with, a guy like Schroeder, and the Lakers, their defense is just better. And if you allow Steph to do what he does, because you can't stop him, if you just make sure you contain the other guys on the team, then this is going to be a blowout.
Armaan, I can count on you to agree with me, right?
No, I think the Lakers have it. Like I said, I think they have the right mismatches. It's LeBron in the playoff setting. We all know what to expect from him. He's not going to lose. I think off the bench, Talon Horton-Tucker's really exploded these past couple of weeks without Anthony Davis and LeBron. He's shown us what he's capable of. He's going to be a key piece for them going forward. And I just like the pieces that the Lakers have around Bron and Anthony Davis. I think this is going to be, I wouldn't say an easy win, but I'm pretty confident that the Lakers are going to pull this one out.
Not the first time. Literally everybody disagrees with me. Not going to be the last time. I'm all right with it. Warriors are going to win. So then in the other game in the West, we have the Spurs and the Grizzlies in a matchup that, to me, is like, oh, wow, these two teams like are almost in the playoffs. I totally forgot about the Spurs. Like DeMar DeRozan just complained a lot, got dreads or braided his hair or whatever. And then like Greg Popovich, he was at like the Hall of Fame thing. I thought they were done, honestly. And then the Grizzlies, it's just like John Morant being shouted out in a J. Cole song and Dylan Brooks. So, Armaan, let's start with you. Spurs, Grizzlies. Who is going on to the next play-in round?
It's tough because it's like the Spurs, you look at that team and like nobody really excites you other than like DeJounte Murray and DeMar DeRozan, but they have probably the greatest coach of all time in Greg Popovich. You look at the Grizzlies have been probably one of the most underrated teams in the decade, consistently always being around that, not 18, but consistently being a competitive team. And now exciting young core, John Morant. Is Jaren Jackson back or is he still out?
I think he's back.
He's back. Dylan Brooks, like I think I'm gonna have to go with the Grizzlies. I think overall their team's built better than the Spurs, and I'm more confident their guys performing.
So can we all agree that this is probably the most uninspiring game out of the bunch? Just like you said, you have the Spurs, they have the greatest coach of all time in Pop, and you have DeMar DeRozan, but and DeJounte Murray, but at the same time, this is just going to be a bore in my. Because I know John Morant's been on a little bit of a slump lately, and Jaren Jackson, I think he's just coming back from injury, so I don't know if he has his legs fully under him. So I feel like the key for Memphis winning is a guy like Dylan Brooks, who we just saw, kind of lead that some sort of a comeback versus Golden State in the last game of the regular season. So I feel like that's going to be, somebody who can really determine the outcome of the game. But I'm going with Memphis because outside of, like I said, DeMar and DeJounte Murray, there's nobody on the Spurs who can really lift them to really do anything inspiring and, push them to potentially become one of the two seeds to make the playoffs.
Yeah, I think that the Grizzlies are probably going to take this one. I mean, it's the only one of these playing games where there's actually a real significant disparity in talent between the two sides. The Spurs may have the better coaching, but I don't think it's going to be enough. I mean, they're the only team coming out of this Western, set of teams here with a negative record this season. Everybody else is above 500. They're significantly below at 33, 39, and nothing they've done has inspired me, and I think that we can expect Popovich to pull together a good game plan, but you need better execution, and he just doesn't have the talent on the roster anymore to make it work. Memphis is they're gonna do what they do best. They're phenomenal in the paint. They move the ball incredibly well, and unless the Spurs can turn a massive amount of scoring in the paint and constant passing into turnovers, unless they can magically convert that. I mean, if you spot it out of Valanciunas' hands anytime he gets it, then I think it's probably safe. But I don't know. Memphis just is Memphis isn't a phenomenal NBA team right now, but they do have a significant gap over the Spurs.
Yeah, I agree. But kind of contrary to what all of you guys are saying, I think this is going to be a really exciting game for some reason. I don't know why. It's old school basketball. It's old school gritty basketball. You have a brilliant coach in Coach Pop he's gonna come out with a game plan that should be enough to compete for 4 quarters. I don't think it's going to be enough. But you have the old school Grizzlies who pass the ball so well. They're top 5 in assists. They're top 5 in they're actually number 1 in the paint. They're old school. I think Jonas Valanciunas is going to go off inside the paint. He just had 29 points against the Warriors. John Morant's going to be dishing it. It should be an entertaining game for me, at least, because I like that old school kind of like gritty down to the wire basketball. It's not going to be as fast paced, as electric as a Warriors Lakers game. But I definitely think it's going to be one to watch. I just don't think that the Spurs are going to have enough in the end to overcome that, that just paint presence that the Grizzlies have. And although they have some exciting players on their team, I just don't think they're going to win, but I don't think it's going to be a boring game.
You trying to convince me that it's not going to be a boring game assured me that it's going to be like 86-80.
Oh my God.
Hey, 86-80 doesn't mean bad. It just means low score.
Yeah, it just means like a lot of missed shots and probably a bad.
Is it missed shots or is it good defense?
Exactly.
No, it's going to be missed shots.
Well, the Spurs don't really take much shots anyway. They're really a conservative team when it comes to shooting. They don't like to shoot shots if they don't have them. So that's going to make or break them. It might break them. It probably will break them, but it's going to be I think it's going to be a good game. I mean, it's fine if you don't believe me.
So then we have the Pacers and the Hornets in a game that is really weird because everybody oohs and ahs about LaMelo Ball, understandably so. But then it's like just him. Gordon Hayward's not going to be there. And then the Indiana Pacers, okay. So when it was All-Star time and everybody was like, oh, Sabonis should have made it over Randall, kind of dumb. Like, that makes no sense. The Pacers obviously deserve to be where they are. Knicks in 4, not tonight, though. So the Pacers are like the biggest what if. And then, they got rid of Oladipo, and now they're in this situation they're in now. I don't think the Hornets have enough to beat the depleted Pacers, but I don't think the Pacers really make much noise other than that. So does anybody think the Hornets are going to come out victorious?
I'm kind of with it. I do like the Hornets in this matchup. I mean, they've got so much good young talent, and they're not nearly as experienced as the Pacers are. But I think that might work to their benefit in the long run. I mean, they've got so much good young guys who can really come back from that they hit a slump, they can break out of it. You don't have them. Their shooting motion isn't so strict at this point that they can't just adjust and change mid-game. I mean, it means they're not consistent, and I don't see them going very far in this tournament. Even if they did manage to make it through both rounds of this play-in tournament, but they've got enough of an offensive rebound and enough fight for the ball. They consistently get after it. I think that all they got to do is force a couple stops late and go after their shots, and they'll be able to put this away. I think the Pacers might just be a little bit too banged up. I mean, it's not that they're playing on demand as much as they're playing handicapped. They have the men on the court pretty consistently. They're just not getting the same production out of them. I mean, Indiana lost Miles Turner, and that was kind of a blow for them. I think they stood a better chance with him. But yeah, I think that even though the Pacers have so much, every position is a threat for them on the court at all times, but they don't have anyone who's going to take this game over. And the Hornets they're just young enough and hungry enough, and I think they're more than capable.
Okay, so before anyone else answers, when you guys do your research and stuff, do you do research for both teams, and then it's like, oh, let's see what Steven says, and then I'll do the exact opposite? So
Sometimes.
Okay, Julian, Armaan, and Deonta, who thinks the Pacers win?
I do.
I don't.
Okay, that's one. Okay, so
I'm
Julian,
on the fence about it.
Julian, I want to hear your case, and then Deonta yours, and then Armaan gets to decide.
Okay. Well, to kind of piggyback off what Iestyn said, I do think that the Pacers have somebody that can put this game away, and that is probably one of my favorite players in the league. Someone I think is really underrated and overcame a lot of adversity in terms of health. That's Caris LeVert. I think I think they upgraded in getting rid of Oladipo. He wasn't going to stay after his contract expired. You go younger, you go with a guy who has a higher ceiling, in my opinion. And I think he's a phenomenal player. I think what he does on offense is smart. It's good. Sometimes he takes a bad shot or he doesn't, score a ton of points, but he just had 20, I think it was 25 against the Lakers. Played 21 minutes the last game they played. I really like this Pacer team. I do agree that they're playing handicap. They're not really playing at their full potential. But I think LeVert's going to go off for a cool 30 plus. He's going to hit a dagger with a minute 12 left, and it's going to put it away. I do love the Hornets' energy. I think they're a couple of players away from being potentially good. They need a power forward in the center, but who doesn't? But they're a young team. I like Washington. I like Bridges. I don't think the Hornets announcers are commentating this game because it's a playoff game. So that's kind of another L for them. But I do think the Pacers are going to win. They're more experienced. I don't know why I get this feeling that LeVert's going to do something incredible tomorrow.
So this is just a matchup of two teams who had really, I won't say high expectations, but they were playing pretty solid basketball. Mm-hmm. Then they got hit by the injury bug, and they got hit by like very fierce. So as so for the Pacers, I know Miles Turner is out, TJ Warren's been out. I think Brogdon's dealing with something, LeVert's dealing with something. It's just a simple matter of how healthy are you at the moment. Mm-hmm. If you were to ask me, back in January, who I think is the better team, I'd probably go with the Pacers because they definitely have more talent, but they just aren't healthy. I mean, I know LaMelo Ball, he dealt with his injury. We thought he was going to be out for the whole season, but he ended up coming back. I think he's, really big key, obviously. It just comes down to a simple fact of just how healthy you are. And the Hornets at the moment, even with Gordon Hayward out, they're more healthy than Indiana. So that's why I have to go with Charlotte.
I mean,
Armaan, you've heard both sides.
So I agree with what's Deonta saying. Obviously the Hornets are the healthier team, but when I look at the Hornets, I mean, they don't have that go-to guy like the Pacers. Terry Rozier's inconsistent, Devontae Graham's inconsistent as well. When I look at the Pacers, you have a player you can trust in Karis LeVert. He's been on I wouldn't say a tear, but he's had a solid run of games recently, and that's the player I trust most in this matchup is Karis LeVert, and pairing him along with Sabonis as well. I just think the Pacers are going to take it, especially since they have more experience in these situations, even though they are have less players available compared to the Hornets due to injuries.
The final play-in matchup has a lot of interest on this podcast, especially, but overall as a company, a lot more than you would think. Definitely the most out of any of the four matchups. So Iestyn and Deonta, I'm going to save your thoughts for last. I'm going to have Julian and Armaan decide whose team they think will do it. Then I'm going to go. Then it's up to you two. Julian, start with you.
Man, I don't want to disappoint anybody.
That I do it all the time. You get used to it.
It's just this game has probably made me think more than any of the other ones, because I think it's going to be like that Nets and Wizards game that went down to the wire that the Wizards ended up finishing off and taking. And I know that the Wizards are, everyone's like, oh, the Wizards, blah, blah, blah. Westbrook is washed and all that BS. But the Celtics are a depleted team. The Celtics, they just, in the paint, they seem to like collapse, and they collapsed last year in the Eastern Conference Final with everybody healthy. And I know that the Wizards don't have like the biggest team, but I think the Wizards are going to come out on top. I know Deonta's going to like that. I don't know. I feel like Bradley Beal's going to show off. He's going to go off for a lot of points. He was nursing that hamstring injury. He missed out on the scoring title, unfortunately. But I think Westbrook and Beal are just they're gonna do what they probably should have done the entire season, and they're gonna somehow come out with a win. I do think it's gonna be a closer game. I do like Brad Stevens coaching a lot better. I do think that the Celtics are the more talented team. But I love Tatum. I don't think it's gonna be enough. I don't know.
I agree with Julian as well. I mean, this is a Celtics team Kemba hasn't played the last 3 games, and even last year in the playoffs, Kemba was, let's say, didn't live up to the hype. Mm-hmm. Without Jaylen Brown, the Celtics are a bottom 10 defensive team, and since the Wizards did acquire Daniel Gafford at the trade deadline, they have been a top 10 defensive team. I believe they 16-9 in the last month since April. They're obviously, the Wizards are one of the hottest teams in the NBA. Mm-hmm. My guy Westbrook balling out. Beal's been on a tear as well. Everything's just pointing to a Wizards win, but the Celtics have had the Wizards number this season. Jason Tatum, I mean, he's been a problem for the Wizards to guard, especially because they don't have, I wouldn't say elite win defender, but they don't have a guy that can like stick on him like most guys do. But I'm going to go with the Wizards win here. I just think the Celtics are too depleted to keep up with the Wizards scoring offensively.
All right, Saleem, I'm not rocking with those two. Celtics going to take this one easily. The Wizards, just watching them is like, it's just so weird because Bradley Beal's like so good and Russell Westbrook does too much. So it's like, oh, they should be really good. But then it's like, oh, they missed. They missed again. Oh, Westbrook got another rebound. Oh, he chucked into the third row. So it's just like a super sloppy basketball team. And then, so to use a recency bias, which, is everyone's favorite thing, Boston Celtics had nobody yesterday against New York Knicks in the Mecca. Almost beat the number 4 seed New York Knicks on the road. So if they can almost do that, they can for sure beat the Washington Wizards. Like the Wizards, it's just so, there's a reason why this hot stretch is like impressive, because they should have been like decent most of the year. But then, they finally lived up to half of their potential and everybody's like, oh, wow, like this really worked out. But it didn't, because they're not going to make the real playoffs. And I don't know, Celtics going to take it 15, 17.
That's catastrophic. No way.
All right, yes, and I'm gonna let you go because I have some.
Yeah, I think both of us have had a bit of a hard time holding our tongues for these past few minutes here. So first of all, Julian Almond, the slander? How dare you? Secondly, I think that you have points. I hate to say. Admittedly, this is probably the most banged up Celtics team I've seen in the playoffs in quite some time. The closest thing that I can really bring to mind, the closest comparison that really comes to mind is 3 years ago, Jason Tatum's rookie year, where Kyrie Irving was out for the whole playoffs, and we had pretty much no Hayward there. It was rookie Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown in his second year. I think we might have still had Terry Rozier, Scary Terry, coming out, and we had a lot of strong role players coming through the bench and dominant play from young guys, and we aren't that same team right now. But if Jaylen Brown this season going out right before the playoffs is that year's Kyrie Irving, then I'd love to say that those young guys who we need to step up are Peyton Pritchard or Pritchard, I'm not sure which, I never am, and Aaron Naismith. I mean, they're two young guys who've really come into their own in the second half of this season. They're two hot-handed scorers. I mean, Naismith has started locking it down defensively, and he can really help step into the hole that he and Pritchard both can step into the hole that's going to be left by Jaylen Brown's minutes. I think that we've got the Wizards have a severe mismatch against us in the paint. I mean, they're going to come inside and do some damage, guaranteed. I mean, quite frankly, they'd be stupid not to.
Mhm.
We've only got two real options at center, and one of them is Tristan Thompson playing below average, and the other one is Robert Williams playing with one less leg than he should have. It's going to be a very, very tough matchup, but nothing would surprise me. It could be a blowout in either direction. But if both teams play at their current level of basketball, Washington takes it. But if the Celtics can just do what they're supposed to do, just get relatively good play off the bench, just get reasonable scoring nights from their starting units, get an adequate defensive performance in the paint from Robert Williams and Tristan Thompson, then this is going to be the Celtics to walk off with. But frankly, I don't see either of these teams losing in the second round of the play-in. So I think that looking at this matchup, we're already looking at the 7 and the 8 seed. None of that's going to change, even depending on what the result of the game is. I mean, the Wizards, I fully expect them to do what they've been doing this last half of the season. I mean, where Westbrook's playing a better triple-double than he did for most of his career previously. I mean, now it's not like, okay, cool, let me get 3 rebounds in the last 2 minutes and now I've got my triple-double. It's, okay, cool, I happen to have got 3 rebounds in the last few minutes because I'm getting after the ball, and then when I'm hucking it upfield, it's not going quite into the third row of the stands. It's hitting the corner. There's an open man there. Rebound, assist. I mean, it's the more efficient triple-double type of game than I've ever seen from him. And it's refreshing, and it's damn good basketball. It's one to look forward to. But I'm going to say Celtics, but I'd give it maybe 3 or 4 points.
Okay, so let me just break this down into a simple couple points. First of all, beating the 4 seed Knicks in the Mecca, that's easy. So let's start there.
Yeah, but they didn't do it. If it was so easy, they should have done it. That's why they're going to beat the Wizards.
Okay.
And let's not get it twisted.
Okay, so,
like Jason Tatum, is that dude. So whatever you're going to say, Jason Tatum is better than anybody else on the court.
yes.
But
So
go on.
Okay, so Tatum's definitely better than anybody on the Wizards. Second of all, the words Westbrook and good basketball should never belong in the same sentence. I'm sorry, Armaan. That's just how I feel. Just to keep it real, it can go either way. But if I was a betting man, I'd probably go with the Wizards, even though I think they're the biggest overachieving underachievers in the last 15 years. I just, once again, this is kind of the same thing with the whole Pacers Hornets thing. How healthy are you right now? And looking at, Boston, losing somebody like Jaylen Brown is huge because he's definitely you might call him the 1B or you might call him the 2 to Tatum, but he's definitely a big factor on the team. And I know Bradley Beal, he's dealing with the hamstring, but when it comes down to it, we saw it in the game on Sunday. When you need him to score, he could definitely give that to you. And this might sound dumb, or this might be out of left field, but don't sleep on Captain Hook. Don't sleep on Robin Lopez, because if you've seen what he's been doing this past season and his hook shot, that's he's looking like a broke man's Kareem. So don't sleep on him. Now I might be sipping the Wizards Kool-Aid. I probably am. I'm a little drunk.
Sipping.
But
You're covered in it.
I'm bathing in it.
You're sweating out like, what are they? Red, white, and like navy.
Something like, yeah. Okay, I'm definitely. But I just truly think that a guy like, even though I don't like his game, Westbrook, he's going to give his 100% effort, and like, there's nobody on the planet who can stop him once he's going 110%. Now, it might be inefficient as hell, but at the same time, his effort is just there, and like, he definitely get the guys involved. And even though with the Wizards bigs have been suspect to say the best over the last couple of years, I feel like this is the best core of bigs. I mean, just like Armaan said, you look at a guy like Gafford, he's really athletic, and I don't feel like there's anybody on Boston who can keep up with a guy like him. So he's really going to be key on the defensive end, and especially in that whole pick and roll situation with him and West, they developed a pretty good chemistry there. I know, like, once again, Tatum's better than anybody on Washington. That's without question. But this is kind of similar to the Lakers, what I think their defensive theory should be when facing the Warriors. If you stopping Tatum is hard enough in itself, unless he's stopping himself, because there's been times when he stopped himself. But if you allow him to, if you can't really stop him, or you can hope to contain him, as long as you stop the other guys on the roster, you're giving yourself the best opportunity, because at the end of the day, even LeBron James couldn't carry a Cavs team over the Spurs. Now, I'm not saying this is like a Cavs Spurs matchup, but if you just stop the others, then you definitely give yourself the best chance to win. But I could definitely see Washington, just coming out, just wetting themselves. So that is. But if I had to pick, I'd probably go Washington.
Very quick, Julian. 2 teams from the East that are going through.
Oh damn. Wizards and Celtics. Come on.
Armaan, 2 teams from the West.
It's Warriors, Lakers.
Iestyn, Deonta, say whatever you want.
This is our year.
Oh no.
Okay, maybe it's not our year, but this is our year. Definitely.
So that's all the time we got. Episode 9 in the books. We're going to be back on Thursday talking about the real playoffs, because, some teams actually make it to the real playoffs. They don't need these Mickey Mouse games. They get home court first round.
You did not say Mickey Mouse.
Anyways, that's all the time we got at the Sports Wave official on Instagram, at Wavelengths Pod on Instagram, the Sports Wave YouTube channel, the sportswave.net/apply. I don't know why you wouldn't want to be a part of this. So come join us, ride the wave, and we will see you guys on the next one.